Our headquarters is in.
Do it too far. All right, that's good.
South
Okay, and then,
Carolina.
oh, you're recording.
We often get questions about taking in orphans and injured animals. That's not what we do, unfortunately. We get several calls per day. And the other thing we get a lot is, how can I renew my voting registration? They confuse us with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. So we get lots of calls. We do have an identity crisis, so hopefully I'll be able to clarify that a little bit today. We are an affiliate of the National Wildlife Federation, but we are a nonprofit, and all of our proceeds, all donations stay in South Carolina when they're made to the South Carolina Wildlife Federation. We don't get any funding from National. But they do support us, and we support them with programs we're going to talk about today, the whole Gardening for Wildlife program. So we are actually older than the National Wildlife Federation. We were founded in 1931, so we're 86 years old this year. And we were originally founded by sportsmen, hunters, and fishermen, believe it or not. I don't know, I'm sure we have lots of fishermen and fisherwomen here in this crowd with this wonderful low country salt marsh environment that we have. The fishing is fabulous. Like John mentioned, I was down here in the low country this weekend. My son, we have a little weekend place at Bennett's Point. Does anybody know where that is? It's the heart of the Ace Basin. Have you heard of the Ace?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's Bear Island Wildlife Management Area in Donnelly. There's a little section right at the end of the road called Bennett's Point, and we call it the Redneck Riviera. But it's paradise. We'll never be looking out at condominiums. All the area around us has been put into conservation easement. And my son was fishing. That's the first thing he does, is to get out on the dock, throw the cast net, and catch some shrimp and some mullet. And he caught a big old redfish. But what we teach him is that we're not going to waste anything. Everything you catch, we're going to eat. But this is the same sort of lesson that these folks were learning back in the early 1930s. The resource was getting depleted because of wastefulness and over-harvesting. So that's our origins of the South Carolina Wildlife Federation. They realized that conservation was important back in the 1930s, and harvest limitations were essential. But now we've moved forward, and we're comprised of so many different types of people. Young and old, fishermen are still very much involved, hunters are involved. But we also have many, many birders and nature enthusiasts of all kinds, photographers, anybody who really has a love for the South Carolina diverse habitat that we have here. And we believe the way we were just having a conversation about how some folks are so disrespectful and will kill anything in their path. But we really believe that education is the key, that once people realize how special of a place South Carolina is, and that our resources are special here, that they'll want to save it for future generations. So you know, kids like my daughter and my daughter's kids will have this beautiful place to enjoy. And we'll have the wildlife that we enjoy seeing. So through our educational programs, we're establishing that conservation ethic. We have a women's outdoor retreat. It's held at Hickory Knob State Park in September, and it's a great way for a couple hundred women to get together and enjoy nature-related activities. So they can take a number of classes. And I do have a sign-up sheet if you're interested in getting on our mailing list. There's no obligation. We'd love to have you as a member. and I have some membership applications on the table there. But if you just want to get on our mailing list, you can just give us your name and your email address. You can pass it around, Michelle. And you could find out about some of these classes. We're also the host site for the Midlands Master Naturalists. Do we have any Master Naturalists in the room? Are you familiar with the program? No. It's offered through Clemson University. There's about 7 host sites in the state. I think 3 along the Low Country coastline. Spring Island is a host site. They do a phenomenal job. We're the Midlands host site, so for people who want to learn more about the flora and the fauna of the Midlands area, they can take our class. We also offer classes for children through the Junior Naturalist program. And then the Pro Birder. I know there's lots of birders in here. We have the Pro Birder course, and Professor Drew Lanham, slipped my mind for a minute, from Clemson University. He's an ornithologist that's known around the world, and he does an amazing job. But these are weekends typically, and we've held them down at Bear Island before. There's been classes down at Hunting Island, a variety of the places. So if you get on the mailing list and you want to learn more about birds, and he brings into cultural history, and he's phenomenal to be around. So anyway, those are some of our educational programs. But today I'm going to specifically talk about the habitat programs. And we do have 4 distinct programs, and I'm hoping that you guys might be interested in 2 of them. The backyard habitat certification, and John and Marianne have gotten their yard certified, and they have a very nice sign out there. That's for backyards and churches, parks, any public area. Lots of libraries are getting certified, and it usually takes a community group who wants to get out there and adopt a location to create a wildlife habitat. Then we have the schoolyard program, which is a wonderful program to get kids involved. And we have probably a couple hundred schools certified in the state. And we have an industrial program called Wildlife and Industry Together, WAIT. No locations down in this part of the state. A lot of them are in the upstate around Spartanburg, Greenville, Rock Hill area, a couple in Columbia area, but would love to get some more sites down in the Low Country around the Charleston area. And then the community habitat program, and I'm hoping with the amount of interest, the amount of people that are here today, that you might consider Moss Creek becoming a community wildlife habitat. So we'll talk a little bit more about that program in particular. Okay. As we mentioned outside, habitat loss is the biggest thing that's affecting wildlife in our state and wildlife habitat because of development. This is quite typical, a clear-cut area where a new development comes in. Developments, in fact, right on the road where we live. They want to change the zoning laws to allow more houses per acre and build a new school and expand the roads. And this is what happens. This is how we see developments go up.
I just noticed it wasn't blinking.
Is it going now?
It's going now.
The 4 essential elements, like we talked about outside, and how these folks have done such a wonderful job, is to provide food, water, cover or shelter, and places to raise young. And that's what we'll focus this talk on. And go ahead, John. And you can provide food certainly by putting out feeders, but feeders you have to maintain. So it's so much better to have your shrubbery, your trees producing the seed, your flowers producing the seed, and it's less for you to have to maintain in the long term. But if you want to see a bunch of birds at once, having feeders is the way to go. And we provide, supplemental food in the wintertime when food is a little bit more scarce. It's even more important. Does anybody know some of these birds that are here? You got your cardinal, you got your goldfin, and your state bird, your Carolina wren, your chickadee, Tucker titmouse. So you've got a lot of the backyard birds that you'll see at a feeder. And there's a little handout on the table that's over there. There's some information. So help yourself to some of the information I put out. And you don't have to get up now, but I'll leave all this stuff out for a while. And it's a nice little one sheet about the different birds that you'll see in your backyard and how to identify them. So again, with our, we were talking about the fox squirrels, which are endangered or extremely rare at least. But the common squirrel tends to really enjoy the feed that you put out, but you can deter them, not eliminate them from your feeders. I have yet to find a 100% surefire way, but they do have feeders that will swirl from the weight of the squirrel. And they can be very entertaining if you're bored. Looking at the squirrels is a lot of fun. This one here will close from the weight of the squirrel. There, black-capped chickadee is eating some safflower seed. And safflower seed is less tasty to the squirrels. So you may, if they're eating all of your expensive feed, you may consider switching a little bit. We also recommend for your feeders and your houses that you put a baffle on them. This is a raccoon baffle if you have problems with raccoons. It basically creates a barrier between the bottom and the top of that house or that feeder. And this is a squirrel baffle. It's a little bit smaller. But that will keep, number one, predators from getting on up there because the raccoons will eat those eggs. You'll have your snakes will try to get into the bird houses. So this will minimize that as well as keep others out of your bird feeders. And we talked about berries. This is a holly berry right here, beautyberry, blackberries, all those wild blackberries that grow along the side of the road. You know, the birds absolutely love them. And they love the insects that crawl around on these berries too. So that's providing, protein as well. So if you can plant any berry producing shrub or tree, that's great. And for hummingbirds, we all love our hummingbirds. The ruby-throated hummingbird is the one that we have here in South Carolina. There are a number of things that you can plant in your yard in addition or instead of putting out the nectar solution. So you've got crossvine, you'll see that growing wild. All of these are native. Trumpet creeper, honeysuckle, this is bee balm down here. And certainly you can put out the hummingbird feeders and you do not need to buy the stuff that dyes it red. There have been some studies to show that that's actually harmful. So just the plain sugar water is all you really need. And in the summer, again, you need to consider changing that out pretty frequently because it will spoil and ferment. And monarchs are kind of the poster child, the monarch butterfly. They become the poster child for the decrease in the pollinator populations. And the reason for that decrease, again, is because of a lot of this large-scale agricultural farming where you no longer have the little strips of natural border around these farms, and the overuse of the pesticides that take place. So those pesticides are very detrimental. So we have a campaign going on right now to try to help save the monarchs. So we have milkweed over there. If you're familiar with milkweed, there's milkweed seed packets over there. So it may be a little late right now to start the milkweed seed. So you may want to just wait until the fall and put it out in the fall. And that way, the cold winter, I guess it gets cold. Not real cold, you do get some freezing weather. So that it really, the germination rate is better if you give them a little bit of a cold snap. And like with any wildflower, you just want to put a little sprinkling of soil over those seeds. So don't bury them too deep, otherwise they won't germinate. But
Amazing,
please
each
help
winter
yourself.
seems colder though.
That's just as we get older, we can't take the cold, we need to move further south. But please help yourself to plenty of seeds there. Each packet has about enough to cover a maybe 10, 15 square foot area. So, go back with me just. Again, the milkweed, there are several varieties. We always recommend the native milkweed. There are several varieties of native milkweed, but there's a tropical that you don't want to use. It's Persiflora, if I'm saying that correctly, but we call it the curse milkweed because it actually can harm the native monarchs. But milkweed is the host plant. That's the only plant that the monarch butterfly will lay its eggs on. So when they hatch out, the little caterpillars will be right there on their food source and eat the leaves. Water, not all of us have a beautiful pond like that, but we can all add a little, bird bath to our yards and provide that fresh water. Or you can do something smaller like this, or you can get quite elaborate like you see in this next photo.
We have one.
You can get value of, and then your neighbors ask you, well, what's that sign in the yard? What does that mean? You can start the conversation and spread the word. So we do encourage everybody to get certified. There is an application in these brochures here. These brochures are pretty much a summary of what I talked about, but they also provide plant lists that are beneficial to wildlife, different plants that are great hosts for butterflies, as well as nectar sources for butterflies and hummingbirds. So all these are native plants, and within there's an application. The application process is now very easy. How many of y'all are certified? Wow, this is awesome. You really are. Well, you all are on a great start. How many of y'all were certified maybe 10 or 15 years ago? Do you remember the process was pretty lengthy, wasn't it?
Probably years ago, it was a long, lengthy
Oh, was
process.
it?
Yeah.
Even that long? Okay, where you had to draw like your yard, sketching your yard. Well, it's very easy. It's basically on the front page of the form, you've got your essential information, name, address, phone number, blah, blah, blah. And then on the back, it's a checklist of how you meet the 4 requirements. So, for example, under food sources, you have to have a minimum of 3 of these, and it could be plant foods, a seed-producing plant, a berry-producing plant, nectar-producing plants, fruit, nuts, sap, pollen, foliage, supplemental feeders. You have a butterfly feeder, hummingbird feeder, suet, squirrel feeder. Some people actually like to feed the squirrels, and seed, and so on and so forth for the other categories. So it's very, very simple, and there is a fee of $20, but it does support the whole Gardening for Wildlife program, and you do get a year membership with the National Wildlife Federation, and you'll be on South Carolina Wildlife Federation's mailing list as well. So some of you may be on the list, although it wasn't linked so closely until about 2 or 3 years ago. So if you're not on the list, you can pass that sign-up
Anybody
sheet
else
around.
want to sign up that did not get this?
And then if you do get certified, there are these signs, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Carolina Fence Guard in a minute, but we call our certification, and you're jointly certified. When you certify and you live in South Carolina, you're jointly certified with SCWF and NWF. We sell these signs, the Palmetto Wildlife Habitat sign. National sells, they've redesigned their emblem. It's got Rocky, I call him Rocky Raccoon, but he's a little raccoon image. But certainly those signs we can't compete with, those very nice, wrought iron types of signs. But these are $25, and we think they are attractive and catch people's attention, and it's really about spreading the word. Okay. Just very briefly, our WAIT program, the Wildlife and Industry Together program. Many of these industries, BMW, Michelin, Honda, are some of them, Spartanburg Water, so we have some municipality type businesses that are involved. They typically have dozens of acres, if not hundreds of acres around their plants. So they dedicate a portion of their site to wildlife. And I won't tell you that they don't all have these sprawling lawns. They all have sprawling lawns, but they have left the natural woodlands in the back, and more of them are starting to plant pollinator gardens, milkweed and things like that. So these are some pictures. Lots of them have nature trails going through their site so the employees can get involved. Go ahead. and a lot of them have, those wildlife cameras, again, to raise that appreciation for wildlife with their employees. Shelley? The schoolyard habitat, this is a picture of a Carolina fence garden right here. Now that we're all living in South Carolina, we're proud South Carolinians, and we want to, let everybody know that we know what our state symbols are. So our state bird is the Carolina wren, so it requires a wren house. The state flower is the Carolina jessamine, this beautiful yellow vine. There's Indian grass in here. You can go on. I think I've got another couple of slides. So these little Carolina fence gardens are great to be used in public places like schoolyards or like entranceways to neighborhoods or maybe around the community clubhouse. It's a great way of giving some pretty beauty to the area using native plants and that sort of thing. Sweetie, put the phone there, please. Go ahead, sweetheart. There's the Carolina wren. Granite is our state rock, which is a little bit hard to come by down here. But actually DNR is one of the partners in this, and they will provide 3 pieces of blue granite, which is the state stone. The eastern tiger swallowtail is the state butterfly, and these are some of the plants, the host plants and the nectar plants that would create habitat for them. And we also have the state tree, the cabbage palmetto, or the sable palm, as it's known. Indian grass is the state grass. And then goldenrod is the state wildflower. All that beautiful yellow that you see on the side of the roads, that's goldenrod. It does do that. But as long as you have 3 of those elements, you can have a Carolina fence garden. And these are some more pictures of that. Now, the community habitat certification, I think you guys are well on your way having this amount of interest. It's based on the population of the community, and it's a percentage. So I'm not sure if you have more than 1,000 people.
I would think so. No, it's closer to 2,000 would be a 2,000.
Okay.
1,000 families, more or less.
1,000 families, and it may be based on family now that you're mentioning it. You would need a minimum of 40 households to get certified. You probably have 40.
We have to work on that.
Yes, and I'll leave you some paperwork on that. But these are the certified communities in South Carolina. A few of them are very close. Right here, Briar Cliff Acres is up around Myrtle Beach, but Kalawasi is just down the road. Fripp Island that's her favorite place in the world. It's the first part of the process. So these 3 communities are registered and are working towards certification. And it's a point-based system, sweetheart. Okay, so you first form a team, which you've got all the leadership here and everybody that's interested. You identify a team leader and some of the key members, so you just don't want one person to be the leader. You want maybe 3 or 4 in case somebody moves or whatever. You register with National Wildlife Federation. Then you establish your goals, and there's certain categories, and you document your results. It's really not a hard process. So you have, again, habitat certification goals. It's a sliding scale based on the population size. There's educational goals, and I think your video would be a wonderful example, and your website, you've already got that. There's minimum points that are required in each of these categories, and it sounds like you're well on your way with that. Then there's community projects that are required. And these are, again, just some examples. I didn't list all of them. And with all of these categories, it's very open-ended. If you've got a better idea than their suggestions, you can talk with Patrick about that, who heads up this program at the national level. You probably do a community cleanup of some sort.
Nose Creek does.
Okay, wonderful. So that would be, that would earn you points already. Doing some sort of, do you have a nature trail? Keeping
Actually,
your
we have
nature
two
trail.
preserves here, but I'll touch upon it in a minute when you're back.
Okay, so, again, you're probably doing most of what you would need to do already. And the biggest thing would be getting some signage out to show that you're a community. So, and then there's administrative goals, and that's really related to post-certification. After you get your certification, what are you gonna do to maintain that? You just don't wanna get your certification, get your signs put up, and then, forget about it. You wanna be able to maintain it long run. So, just that. And you'll get this much prettier for your community that you can hang, get it nicely framed and hang in a public place. You'll do maybe some tours, doing like a tour of gardens within the community of certified houses is another wonderful educational outreach. But these are some pictures from some of those certified sites. Kalawasi has been certified for 10 years now. If you just Google some of those communities and just put their name and then put community wildlife habitat certification, you'll come up with all kinds of wonderful articles that have been written by the local press. And it's a great way of promoting your community.
Do you have to keep getting recertified? I mean,
No.
it looks on that sign, it says certified for 3 years.
You do have to submit, but you don't have to do new projects. You basically have to maintain. So you have to re-register, but you will not have to pay. There's a $99 fee, and you'll only pay that once. And yes, sir.
How does this differ from the Audubon Sanctuary International Program, community program?
Oh, that's a very good question. Audubon's is probably more focused on the birds.
We do have, the golf courses are Audubon Sanctuary.
Oh, wonderful.
I didn't know how that, the community-wide would be different.
Mm-hmm.
It's something we need to explore and look into in
Yes.
our
Yeah.
task force.
I think that's
Well,
a
it's
very
not
good
National
question.
Audubon, this is a separate program,
Yeah.
National Audubon.
Okay. I'm
It
not.
is different. Audubon Sanctuary is totally different from Audubon Birds.
Okay,
What about international?
okay.
This is fantastic.
Well, very good. I think that's it. And this is Patrick's.
I'm going to be trying to be quick, so I'm going to talk, get into my rocks and talk fast. First, I'm going to thank Laura again. Honestly, could not go on as well without some applause for our technical assistant. Quick things, I know you signed a sheet for Laura. However, I'm passing this around. I ask you to please sign it. This is our attendance for our nature club. One of the reasons why I want this attendance is that the nature club, among the different things that we do, is that we advocate for nature. The more people we have that can show interest, the more clout we have in talking with our board and administration about getting some things across. So I urge you.
John, why don't you have people who have yards that are certified, put an S.
That excellent idea. Put a name, a check or certified next to your name or whatever. That would be great. Okay, a couple of things, quickly, and then I don't want the food to get cold. First,
No, we don't want the food to get hot. We want it to stay
one of the
cold.
reasons why I am so grateful to have so many people here today and think about what to do about a nature-friendly backyard is that Morse Creek, as Laura, we did do it right initially. We have a wonderful community here that really does love nature. We have to maintain it though. We can't rest on our laurels, and it's with constant development or whatever, it's constantly looking to see how to find that balance. One of the things we have here is, as you know, we have two wonderful nature preserves, Blue Heron and 40 Island. And we put a lot of energy talking about how to manage them, and Terry and I and others who were on a task force that has been discussing that. Without going into details about that, I just want to point out that when you think about that, that represents about 20 to 25 acres of our 1,100 acres in Morse Creek. That's about 2%. We can't just think about nature as being 2%. We have to think about how we can have the rest as much as possible, be as natural and nature-friendly as realistically as we can, given development and all the different things we have to deal with. Lastly, and I would make this announcement, some of you have heard or whatever, and a couple of you brought to my attention today, is we had another example of one of those cute, dumb little fox squirrels. I call them cute because they are so cute, but they are not the brightest bulbs in the forest. Was killed again today. They really are a treasure that we have down here in the book. I think it's important, if you think that this is an important issue, I know Martha has been expressing the issue about, she wrote a letter to the board, etc. If we want to do something, and all we can do is maybe ask people, ask the board and the community to put up some signs and say, slow down, which we should anyway, I know I should too.
But if they're
As we're
stupid,
driving along Morse Creek Drive, write a letter to a board, to John Miller, if that's something that's important to you. You can't just hear from one or two of us, and that's really the important other people that are mentioned here. As the president of the Nature Club, I've got a fairly good relationship in calling him up and talking about different issues. But if I'm the only voice he hears, all of a sudden, my phone number is going to go off speed dial and into block sender. He's got to hear from a variety of different people. With that, thank you again. Let's go outside and enjoy.
Gator has arrived.
Gator is out there just